All right.
What's up, everybody? All right. That was it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Finally.
All right. So, hey, I'm Scotty Gregorio.
Edgardo Valentine.
What is going on? We are sitting here on the last business day before the hurricane.
The last business day before the hurricane.
So we should probably discuss the hurricane,
Yes.
right?
Let's. I don't know if I'm crazy here, but I feel like everybody's going a little nuts with this hurricane this early in the stage, and I think I don't know, man. I mean, you saw how it is with the gas station here. I hear that there's no water, there's no gas, there's nothing. So let me throw something out there. We're running a promotion. We're gonna give you a bottle of flavored water with every refinance and every loan you get. There you go.
All right. So look, you know, I don't want to start predicting whether or not what's going to happen with the hurricane.
Yeah, but it's important to know because people that are under contract are actually a little scared, a little concerned,
Sure.
and that's understandable. So what happens if you're under contract? You're supposed to close, and what can happen? So a couple of things. Number one of the things that come to mind is insurance.
Yes.
Okay. So if the insurance is not bound yet, bound is that how you say it?
Bound.
Yeah. If the insurance is not bound yet, we might not be able to close because some insurance companies will say we're not going to insure any house until after the hurricane
Right.
happens.
Right.
So that happened with Irma, that happens with hurricanes here. So then we have to wait until the insurance companies can start
writing policies again.
start writing policies again for you to be able to close because you cannot close if you have a mortgage
Without
without
insurance.
insurance. So that's a factor. So what happens if you're in that situation? You can't close right now. You have a contract. Is there anything that protects you in the contract? And that's when a good realtor
Yes.
will point out what wording is already in the contract that will protect you. And I just want to give a shout out to Ernesto. You wanna try his last
Ernesto
name?
Rizhback with
Starlink.
With Starlink Realty is a good friend of ours. You've seen me do videos with him in the past, and he posted something today, which is just a snippet from the contract, which is great. Do you want to?
You can read that. Can
I'm
you?
too old. I can't see that.
Okay, so what he was saying is like, listen, buyers, and listen, realtors. There's a place in the contract, this section G, that's called force majeure, and the force majeure says exactly this. Sorry about the accent. Buyer or seller shall not be required to perform any obligation under this contract or be liable to each other for damages so long as performance or non-performance of the obligation or the availability of service, insurance, or required approvals essential to closing is disrupted, delayed, caused, or prevented by force majeure. So force majeure, it's a hurricane, for example, which is a natural disaster.
Natural disaster.
A flood. Things like that are hurricane. Fires, things like that. So you're automatically protected. And he goes on to say...
Or it goes on to say.
He goes on to say. Because he explains it a little bit. And what he says is that at all time periods, including closing date, will be extended a reasonable time up to 7 days after the force majeure no longer prevents performance under this contract. So that means that even after the hurricane, you still have 7 days automatically in the contract.
Non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable.
Buyer and seller have already agreed to
This
it.
is not something that the seller can say, listen, I don't feel comfortable with this. You automatically have that 7-day extension. Now that 7-day extension has a limit up to 30 days after the closing date. At that point, then the seller can decide to walk out.
So if you're supposed to close on July 1st and the hurricane takes out the entire month of July, as of August 1st, either party could cancel the contract.
Correct.
Okay? Earnest money deposits would be returned and that type of thing. So that's it. Now let's talk about from a financing standpoint. Okay? What happened with Irma, and for whatever it's worth, I don't think it'll happen with this one, but in theory it could. What happened with Irma was this. Lee County, Collier County were declared a federal disaster area as a result of the hurricane. And when an area is declared a federal disaster area, there is an additional step we are required non-negotiably to take on every single file, which is we got to send the appraiser back out there to re-inspect the property to make sure damage wasn't done.
Right.
Okay? So...
and that's why this contract allows not only until the end of the force majeure, until the end of the hurricane, until the end of the disaster time, but it allows for a cushion of 7 days or 30 days, right?
Beyond that.
So you can do all those different things that we need to put in place after the hurricane happens.
Yeah, I mean, look, last year when Irma hit, last year,
2
two
years
years ago now, time flies when you're getting old. You'll learn that one day. But 2 years ago when Irma hit, all of the closings happened, but they all happened the next month because there were.
Right.
I mean, you can imagine literally hundreds of re-inspections that were done, and the appraisers were a bit busy.
Right.
So, and then also there was an additional step where a higher level of corporate underwriter had to sign off on that.
Yes.
So, and then furthermore, when the appraisal went back out, all of the boards and hurricane shutters had to be down so they could take pictures of all the windows.
Yes, that's another thing. That's good.
Remember that? Because there were a few that we
Yes.
sent the appraiser back out 2, 3, 4 times.
Because they kept
the boards up. So anyway, look, it impacts things. Okay, now
things.
all of that is if you're buying in Lee County or Cali County, if those counties are classified as a federal disaster area, if the storm hits the other coast and kind of turns north before it gets to us, and we don't see substantial impact, then most likely we would not be considered a federal disaster.
But at that point, we don't really have an issue. But the point is, I know a lot of buyers were really concerned, and I got on the phone with some of my buyers, and I think it's important, if there's any realtors watching this, or if you're buying a house, or if you know somebody that's buying a house, people it's a stressful situation.
Absolutely.
It's very stressful, especially when you have some money in the line. You're not going to automatically be outside of the contract. You're not going to automatically lose that earnest money deposit if you can't close because the hurricane happens, because you're already protected within that contract, and it's your right. So you'll be fine. Same thing for the seller, by the way.
Yes.
The seller can't, if something happens, the seller is also, there's that extension that also protects the seller.
Yeah, now look, we could get into a dicey situation. Somebody's moving out of their rental at the end of this month, and there's no federal protections there where the client can come back and or the landlord can come back.
That's why
and
buying
say,
is better.
Yes, that's why owning is better than renting. But the landlord could come back and say, "Tough crap, I don't care. You're out. I got a new tenant moving in on Monday or Tuesday or whatever." Right. So I mean, that's something where there could be some exposure there. But from a contractual standpoint, you're protected. From a mortgage standpoint, worst case scenario, there's that extra step that takes place.
That's right. And just as a word of advice, please make sure that after everything's said and done, take all those boards out. If you are selling a property and you're a listing agent and your seller is not in town, please make sure that you go to the house and take those boards out, because we will not be able to close if we do a reinspection and we don't see the windows.
Yeah, and look, the hurricane is obviously big on many fronts, and sometimes things like, hey, I'm buying a house gets put on the back burner a little bit, understandably. But look, we need to still get that information out there, because although it may not be on the forefront of your mind, it's something that should be somewhere on your mind.
That's right.
I think...
One more thing. I want to quickly talk about recession, real quick. I know we've been pounding this. I have a couple clients that are a little nervous about buying a house when it comes to, there's a recession coming. And look, the market does well when there's a recession. The housing does well.
Yes.
Historically.
Yeah.
There's a couple things that you need to keep in mind, and then just very briefly. Interest rates go down when there's a recession, right? So as interest rates go down, not only it allows people to qualify for a little bit more, but it also makes that cost of living, that cost of the payment lower. So it's still cheaper to own a home, to pay a mortgage, than to rent, at least in this area.
Look, I ran numbers on somebody, and the same thing, like, hey, look, this recession may be 12 to 36 months out.
And people don't know. I mean, we might be in a recession and we won't know for another 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. So look, if I ran numbers on somebody, I said, okay, let's say it takes 18 months. Let's say you rent for 18 months. When I figured out the loss of money from rent, and I figured out the loss of potential appreciation, and I factored in the benefit of interest rates being 0.5% lower or 0.25% lower, he was in the hole like $30,000 or $40,000 by waiting.
And that's the thing. What's the alternative? So interest rates go down. It's still the rental. The alternative is still better to buy, because the math works out. And guys, the other thing, why does housing does well when this happens, is because it brings a whole set of people into buying that weren't able to buy before, and that helps the market, that helps appreciation goes up. So look, there's a lot of drama and a lot of fears when it comes to the economy, when it comes to the hurricane, when it comes to all of this, and I really think that when you actually sit down and look at the facts, you're in better shape than anything.
And look, that's why we don't speak in theory.
Right.
You and I put together financial reports
Right.
that mathematically, unequivocally, spells out one way of looking at it. Now we could talk about the livability and how you're more comfortable, and that's a whole separate thing. But making a decision without understanding the actual math behind the decision is flawed.
Right.
And I don't. You may look at the math and go, "Screw it, I want to keep renting." In which case, keep renting. God bless you. But you should definitely run the numbers and look at the math so you can make an informed choice.
And keep in mind, not every hurricane it's Irma or Maria.
And not every recession is 2008.
Yeah,
Okay?
and that's, you gotta have perspective. So that's what I got, man.
I think
Anything
that's
else?
it. Yeah, the last thing is for all. I mean, look, although here in Southwest Florida, I don't see. My personal opinion is we're probably not going to get hit really bad. This is a very major event. It seems pretty unequivocal. A Cat 4 hurricane is going to make landfall in Florida somewhere,
Right.
And that's a serious thing. So, look, thoughts and prayers to everybody out there. Stay safe.
Be safe.
Don't
be
take
kind,
these things. Yeah, don't
be
take
nice
these.
to other people.
Yeah. Let's all play nice in the sandbox, and don't just everybody be respectful of everybody else's needs. It is a scary time, and when this thing blows through, it would be great if I saw what I saw after Irma, which was everybody coming together to help their neighbor.
Right.
I saw some amazing acts of kindness after Irma.
Hopefully without the power out.
Yeah, but yeah, let's all do it well. So stay safe. God bless you, everybody, and I guess we'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week.
All right, see ya.